everyone. Welcome back to TeaandKetchup. My name is Trista.
And I'm Kassia.
Today, I don't know.
Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday.
Well, I guess happy Saturday for me, us right now. Who knows what day you're listening to. I hope you're having a day wherever you are.
Right. Yeah. We don't have very many plans. We're going to go have a girls' night.
It'll be exciting.
Break from house hunting every Saturday, I think. I have to take my cat to the vet.
You do, and I have to help you wrangle the cat for the vet.
Yeah. Oh, and we're going to go see Bernie and AOC tomorrow.
Woot woot.
So that should be fun.
I'm so excited. It'll be good.
Wow, you sound so excited.
I'm thrilled. Okay. It's when we live in a world where it feels like, you know how there's like that saying, like, nobody's coming to save you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't have the power or resources to save myself. I am literally at the mercy of everything that happens. So, Bernie and AOC are kind of like those people that are coming to save me. Okay. If that makes sense. Not that they're going to save me specifically, but it's like they're the only people that I can perceive trying to do something about it. But who knows? So,
I'm probably going to fangirl when I see them.
Same. I'm very excited.
Maybe we'll find our future husband.
Why would we find her?
Because we're going to be in a whole arena of people who are like-minded.
That's a good point. A whole arena of people that I know are not, or maybe they are lying on their dating profiles. People do that, But if you show up to a Bernie stadium, I have a feeling you're not going. You might be a little left-leaning. I don't know, though. I could be wrong. Maybe somebody's going there to learn. And in that case, also dateable material. I like a man who knows he can grow.
Yeah.
So, that'll be fun.
Anyway, well, I guess we'll just jump right into the topics this week.
Heck yeah. What do you got for me?
Well, I think the first thing I want to say before I jump into anything is I tried the crumble cookies, the Kardashian Jenner cookies.
I saw the crumble box. It's all custom for the Kardashians. Tell me about it. How was that?
I did a rating on my TikTok if you guys want to go look, but it wasn't, the pink sugar one that was Kylie's tasted like her lip kits, which I thought was so funny.
I don't know what to say to that because I've never tried a Kylie lip kit, but I guess her lip kits must taste delish.
Yeah, I was kind of turned off by it because of that.
Oh. You were like, this tastes like lipstick and not, yeah. Wow, my lipstick tastes like a cookie.
And there was a lot of controversy with Kourtney's flourless chocolate cake. And I honestly didn't think it was too bad. But everybody was like, oh, this tastes like dirt. And I was like, I didn't think it tasted like dirt. I just thought it tasted like somebody took an Easy Bake Oven mix.
Hey, Easy Bake Oven slapped, okay? Don't knock Easy Bake Oven like that.
All I'm saying is I think that people were over dramatic about how it was bad. My favorite was the Chris yellow cake with the chocolate frosting. And then, of course, the Chloe's cookies and cream skillet was good, too.
I tried the cake. It was fine. My cake's better, in my opinion, but yeah. I'm not selling that. Mm-hmm. I could. Well, I actually couldn't. When I say my cake's better, it's just box cake, so it doesn't really count as my cake.
You're right. Betty Crocker.
Yeah.
Betty Crocker can take.
And I don't think I can start a bakery with Betty Crocker. I feel like there may be some legal issues there.
True. Anyway, just wanted to peep that in there that I did indeed try the crumble cookies, and I will tell you, they were cookies. I don't know. Crumble is not my favorite, so.
Same. I don't go to crumble. I would rather make my own cookies. Again, they're not my own cookies. They're in a yellow tub and I scoop it out and they're delicious. However, I would like to say that I feel like if I were in a competition and we were all baking that same brand of cookies, I would still win. I have perfected the baking of that cookie mix. You know, I've got the right my it's a pizza stone, but I cook my cookies on it. Got the oven temperature and timing perfect. You also have to consider if you're putting them into the oven on a cool stone versus an already warm stone. That affects things. There's a lot that goes into making the perfect cookies, but I think I've nailed it.
Yeah.
So watch out, crumble.
Well, anyway, moving on. We'll start with my story. So Alexa Lucy. She was a former famous YouTuber. I don't even know if she does YouTube stuff now. But she was like one of those people I watched way back in the day. And now she's a TikToker. But she recently revealed how she found out her longtime boyfriend had been cheating on her by using her Ring doorbell camera, which I thought was an entertaining story. So I remember at one point in her being in this relationship, and I think she vocalized that she was like ready to get married to him. I mean, I could be wrong. I wasn't like, let me watch Alexa Lucy forever, but I did occasionally watch her videos. Anyway, she went on the Unbothered podcast claiming that he was really verbally and psychologically abusive to the point that she could not even go out alone. So at some point she started noticing that he was letting her go out like he didn't before. So she thought that was pretty odd. And then described smelling new fragrances in the apartment. And then she even saw, this was so gross. She was like, I started noticing some weird things like the fragrances in my apartment. And then she was like, I even saw dirty fingerprints in my expensive moisturizer.
Oh my. Absolutely not. The rage.
Ugh. Anyway, she then set up a security camera or a security system, and then after 2 weeks caught a woman in her place who looked just like her. But that's not even the craziest part. She later discovered that this person who he was cheating on her with was in their mutual friend group. Like, their friends were friends with her.
Oof.
So everyone in her life knew that she was being cheated on, but never said anything to her.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I hear that story all the time.
It's so crazy. And I think she dropped those friends and I hope she dropped those friends because that's pretty crappy. Anyway, she printed off the proof that she caught, over 600 copies, packed up her apartment, and then put the pictures all over the apartment.
Heck yeah.
Which I was like,
that's dedication. I wouldn't do that. I'd put it in a binder and be like, hey, have fun.
Yeah. And then months later, the woman who was the mistress reached out to Alexa, but she ignored it and moved on from her and the friend group. I just thought that was an interesting story that, I don't know, like a famous person.
What was she famous for? This is the literal first time I'm hearing of this person. Also, you should know that we may hear the Amazon device in the background responding to us. I have. Yeah. But why is this person famous? You said they were on YouTube and then they were on TikTok. Yeah. Like what?
Like a lifestyle influencer. When I was younger, it was the makeup. I think she did a few makeup videos and how to dress when you're 16, blah blah blah.
I'm familiar with the genre.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why she was famous.
Dang. Anyway. Wow. Well, good for her figuring that out. Has the ex-boyfriend responded?
No.
Oof.
But
big oof.
Anyway, that's my first story. Just kind of crazy.
Wow, your first story is so fun because My first story is not. My first story is what has happened in the past week with the tariffs.
Uh-oh.
Because, well, okay, last week, I was like, hey, Liberation Day has happened, and the stock market crashed, and nobody really knew what the heck was going on. And if we're being honest, we still don't know what the heck is going on, but things have happened, so you can talk about what happened. I just won't be able to tell you what I think is going to happen. But, so to give you a kind of a timeline, on April 2nd, Donald Trump, what he called Liberation Day, announced reciprocal tariffs. And these were tariffs against other countries to, I get, in a way that Trump feels we're being taken advantage of. So we're going to charge these countries their due tariffs. Remember, tariffs are a tax on that country, but that tax ultimately gets pushed off onto the consumer, which is you and me. So these reciprocal tariffs have two parts. There is the 10% minimum tariff on all countries. That began on April 5th. The second part is a handful of countries, dozens of countries, were going to receive an additional higher percentage on top of that 10% minimum tariff. Are you following me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So these higher tariffs vary. We had 34% on China, 20% on the EU, 25% on South Korea. Keep in mind, this is just the announcement. Those higher tariffs are going into effect on April 9th. And if you recall, Mexico and Canada have already been dealing with this tariff battle with Trump since March. So as of right now, anything USMCA compliant has no tariff, but all other goods have a 25% tariff. But Kassia, what is USMCA compliant mean? Well, between it means, US and then Mexico, Canada agreement. It's a free trade agreement between the US, Canada, and Mexico. And anything that falls under this compliance, there's currently not a tariff on there. However, anything that does not fall into this tariff agreement has a 25% tariff in Canada and Mexico. But on Liberation Day, Canada and Mexico are trying to work with Trump, and if they continue to work with Trump, then he will drop that tariff to 12%. So, 10% across the board, higher tariffs on a handful of countries. What's the response? Well, we all saw the stock market crashed. People kept saying, don't look at your 401k. I didn't. I didn't. I've never expected to receive my 401k, so I don't pay attention to it. But it affected a lot of people. A lot of people lost a lot of money, especially the wealthy people. Part of that response was a myriad of retaliatory tariffs from several of the countries that we tariffed. Most notably, China implementing a 34% tariff back on American imports. Because remember, we implemented 34% on them. On April 5th, the 10% across-the-board tariff went into effect. On April 9th, the reciprocal tariff went into effect, okay? And this all happened after the stock market had crashed, and everyone was like, please stop, and everyone was mad. So we get to where we are at now, where, okay, these tariffs went into effect. So continue on to what happened on April 9th after that initial tariff went into effect. Hours before, a little less than 4 hours before, or, wow, let me back up. I got my words mixed up. April 9th, the tariffs go into effect. A few hours later, Trump makes an announcement. Hey, we're pausing. We're going to put a 90-day pause on these tariffs. They're keeping that 10% base tariff, but all those other higher tariffs that they're charging other countries, he's like, we're going to stop those, except for China. He's like, we're going to charge you 125%. So really, if we're looking at it, the goal was we're trying to get at China, and everybody else was kind of, they were residual. They were affected because of this. But ultimately, we were trying to get at China. My problem, and here is, this is what I observed. Less than 4 hours before Trump announced that 90-day pause, he, on Truth Social, to his 9.4 million followers, said, "This is a great time to buy." And suddenly the stock market rose. And then he announced, "Hey, we're putting a 90-day pause." And the stock market rose even more. And I don't know about you. It's one of the most egregious examples of market manipulation. If anyone else had done it, they'd be in handcuffs. But that's where we're at now, is a lot of the big tariffs have a 90-day pause. There is still a 10% tariff across the board on every country. But China, we have a 125% tariff. But wait, Kassia, there's more.
Oh, no.
I know. That all took place on April 9th. April 10th, the White House clarified and said, hey, we're actually going to be implementing a 145% tariff on China because they're claiming that there is a 20% fentanyl tariff that we need to account for. As a result, yesterday, on April 11th, China announced a 125% tariff on U.S. goods. So, I don't know if I confuse you anymore and if all the numbers are making your brain rattle, but we're in the middle of a tariff war, and the only winners are people that were wealthy enough to purchase the stocks when Donald Trump said, "Now's a great time to buy." And the rest of us just have to pray. I don't know what we're praying for, but we gotta pray that we turn out okay. So that's kind of where we're at with the tariffs. There's a 90-day pause. That 90-day pause, I don't know. It was announced on April 9th, so I would assume July 9th, we'll see the stock market crash again. So if you need a new phone or dishwasher or car, get that now.
So for the people, a few things, backing up.
Okay.
For the people who don't know, because you were like, market manipulation.
Please ask. Yeah, bring it on.
Right. Market manipulation. People would be in handcuffs. Explain a little bit about that, because some people don't know that is actually not allowed. So the
SEC is an organization that kind of monitors to make sure that that the stock market is steady and that people are, legally able to trade stocks. Currently, if you've probably heard of insider trading. Insider trading is when, you work for McDonald's. And you find out that mad cow disease is going around and beef prices are about to skyrocket. And so, therefore, your burger prices are about to get more expensive. If you were to insider trade, you would go sell all of your stock in McDonald's, in beef, I don't know, Big Beef. I don't know who owns beef. But you would go sell all your stock so that you didn't lose money once it was announced to everybody else that mad cow disease was rampant. That would be illegal. Now, take it a step further. If you knew that mad cow disease was rampant and you went and told all of your McDonald's employees, hey, go sell your stocks, that's that's a piece of market manipulation. It's a lot more complex than that. In this instance, Donald said this is a great time to buy. And it's market manipulation because Donald knew that he was going to announce this 90-day pause, and he knew that announcing this pause would cause the market to skyrocket. Mm-hmm. And because he knew this, him putting on Truth Social and saying go buy caused all of his followers to go buy, and now all of his followers suddenly had their income skyrocket. And that is market manipulation. Donald Trump, he took a series of actions and boom, he made, I believe, last time I checked, $418 million after that announcement on his, DJT stock alone. So did that explain market manipulation?
Yeah.
I hope so. It's a complicated topic, and I may have even botched the explanation, but it's using information that you have as a person in power to help you make more money by communicating to the masses. So,
Yeah,
and that's illegal.
I saw a video of him with all those billionaires that he had in his office being like, and this guy made $100 million last night, and this guy made $200 million last night.
The thing that was frustrating was he kept saying, I'm not going to change my mind. I'm keeping these stocks prices in place. And his wealthy billionaire friends started to get mad at him. And Donald Trump has the ego of a 3-year-old and couldn't stand the fact that his billionaire friends were mad at him, and he reversed it right quick. And now all his billionaire friends are happy with him again, and now he's happy. And that's where we're at with tariffs.
Not fun.
Not fun. Hey, but I went to the grocery store yesterday, and the bananas were not absurdly priced, and I thought they would be. So that was I was thrilled. I was like, I have another week of bananas.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness.
And tins for banana bread.
And I got tins for banana bread. I don't think those are, maybe they'll get tariffed. I feel like we have aluminum in the U.S. Do we have the what are they called? The manufacturing plants to manufacture those bread tins? Probably not. You know what? You're right. Those bread tins probably would cost more. They're probably manufactured outside the U.S. But I digress.
Well, thank you for your update on the tariffs and the bananas.
You're welcome, I guess. Yeah, the bananas and the coffee and the chocolate. Those 3 things are very important to me. So that's what's going to get me in the streets daily, is if all those disappear. Daily protesting for me. Anyway.
I have Vanderpump Rules.
Oh, I'm familiar.
So, Brittany Cartwright and Jax Taylor, who were on Vanderpump Rules. Jax Taylor basically almost the whole time, and Brittany Cartwright married Jax, and then they recently divorced because Jax had admitted that he was doing drugs. Anyway, it was revealed that their son, who's 3 years old, Cruz, has autism. So the Vanderpump Rule exes revealed that their son is mostly nonverbal and received a diagnosis after regressing in verbal skills. So they explained that he was like, and let me just point this out there. I'm interested in this because psychology.
Bring it.
He hit certain milestones earlier than most kids, like walking and
like memorizing the periodic table. I'm just kidding.
Right. But then after he reached the age of 2, he started to regress. Both Jax and Brittany seemed committed to therapy, both speech and OT, so occupational therapy. So they have access to doing those types of things for their son, Cruz, which is awesome. I'm personally, and the reason I bring this up, just really glad that Brittany seems so dedicated to her son, because again, her and Jax divorced after he went into rehab because he had a cocaine addiction amongst other substances, and that caused like a big rift in the family, but they've been co-parenting him. Brittany seems so dedicated as a mom, and I know Jax is probably a good dad, but struggling with addiction, they just kind of have to focus on themselves, or else they have to focus on themselves before they can be a parent, really.
See, and I there's a level of me that well, I don't know. I don't want to say I disagree with that, but I'm like, you need to pull yourself together for your kid.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. He has to pull himself. He has to be there for himself before he can pull himself together for his kid. Like he has to put time and work on himself before he can be a present father. Like, I mean,
can we take a step back? Because the people that know Vanderpump Rules, I don't know Vanderpump Rules. Who are these people in the show? Like, what is their role? Are they the Snooki and situation of Vanderpump? Like, who are they?
No, Jax Taylor was with Stassi, who's one of my favorite.
That means nothing to me again.
So Jax was one of the bartenders.
Okay. That means something to me.
He was dating Stassi, who was one of the waitresses, and then they broke up. he tried to get back with Stassi for multiple seasons. He even got her name tattooed on his arm.
While they were broken up?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Bro.
Anyway, and then after Stassi kind of moved on from him, he met Brittany, who was working at Hooters.
Okay.
And she's from Kentucky. Anyway, he flew her out, and then he flew her out, she lived with him, and she started working as a waitress at Vanderpump as well. At the, not Vanderpump. Why can't I even think of the name of it? Pump. There we go.
That just Pump?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wait. So was Vander like somebody's name?
Vanderpump is the name. But the restaurant's name.
Did they call it Pump because of Vanderpump? Or, I guess that doesn't matter.
I'm like, yes, they called it Pump for Vanderpump. And now I'm even like questioning myself. I'm like, it's called Pump, right? Hold on. I'm doing a quick Google search. Pump.
Yeah, not that why it's named Pump matters, I guess.
Yeah, Pump.
I just don't, all these people.
I'm wrong.
And
I'm wrong. Pump is a restaurant. They worked at Sir. Duh. I'm like, it took me a minute. The restaurant was called Sir.
Okay.
Anyway, moral of the story. That's who they are.
Okay, cool. And they're working on themselves for their kid.
Well, she's a full-time mommy, doing things, invested. Jax is not as invested as far as I can tell. Like, they still have complete 50-50 custody, but he's more trying to pull himself together so he can be a dad. So,
is Vanderpump Rules still airing? Like, do these people have to see each other regularly? I guess they do because they have a kid, but I mean, like, for work purposes.
So, the original cast of Vanderpump Rules decided not to go back, so they're starting Vanderpump Rules is coming back with a whole new cast. But these two specifically, they left like a few seasons before the show actually ended, kind of like when Michael Scott left The Office.
Okay.
You know?
Yep.
They went on to a reality TV show called The Valley, which is supposed to be all about just different parents living in the Valley of California, of Los Angeles.
What would it be like to just start up a reality TV show? They would not want to follow me around. They'd be like, this girl's boring.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, this girl's making tacos again.
I mean, you went to the, what's it called? You went to the, what is it? Vanderpump Garden in Vegas.
I remember that.
And the drinks were good.
It was fancy in there.
The drinks were good. The goat cheese balls were not your fave.
I'm so glad that you remember all of this because I do not. I just remember being there. I don't remember what it tasted like.
Yeah. Anyway, now that my head's screwed back together, Pump is closed. Sir is still open. And on that show, they opened a restaurant called Tom Tom after two of the cast members, Tom Sandoval and Tom Schwartz. Anyway.
That's cute. I support.
Yeah. Anyway, moral of the story, I'm just glad that Cruz has his mom, Brittany, as his rock. And, as much as I think Jax is kind of a dick, just my personal opinion, addiction, being an addiction therapist myself, it's scary to watch. And I know how that can ruin lives. So I'm glad, not that I'm glad, I hope he's taking it seriously. Especially, as what it says, their son has autism and trying to navigate that. It would be nice to have his dad to help him navigate it.
I mean, when you're in the public eye, you either work on it or people nag you to work on it.
Anyway,
wow,
that's all I have for Vanderpump news. What's your next story?
Your stories are so fun. My next story is about, you know what, this is like kind of good news. And I only say kinda. Like, it still sucks. But the Supreme Court voted 9-0, so unanimously, that the Trump administration must facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia, a Maryland father who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador. So just a kind of some context. And I've talked about Abrego Garcia before. He's a father of 3. He was mistakenly deported to El Salvador on March 15th, so almost a little under a month ago. Some background on Garcia is he fled gang violence in El Salvador. The gangs targeted him because of his family's pupusa business. The Trump administration has conceded that deporting Garcia was a mistake due to an administrative error, after initially claiming that he was a ranking member of the MS-13 gang, and that is a El Salvadoran gang. That is it. I do not recall where the gang is from, but they're designated as a foreign terrorist organization. I want to say it's in El Salvador because that's where Garcia fled from. But the administration was given a deadline by a lower court justice of midnight on April 7th of you need to have Garcia back in the States. However, after the Supreme Court voted that the White House needed to facilitate this return of Garcia, they did not specify, a deadline of when this needed to happen. They just said that they needed time for the justices to consider the case more. Currently, they're claiming they cannot get him back because he's in Salvadoran custody, so he's out of their hands. But I guess just overall, they ruled you must facilitate the return of him. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to be watching this closely because it will be interesting, as this is the first time, or at least the first notable time that I'm seeing that the Supreme Court has voted 9-0, so unanimously against something that Trump wishes to happen. And that's part of checks and balances. The Supreme Court is meant to check the presidency, to check the executive branch. So we'll see if that check works. Based off of what I'm seeing with everything else, including the tariffs and the market manipulation, I don't know if Trump can be checked. I think everybody's too chicken to actually enforce these decisions that the Supreme Court is making. But regardless, that's why I say it's kind of lukewarm news is, yay, the Supreme Court says to bring him back, but boo, because we don't know if it's actually going to happen. This comes amidst a variety of deportation orders against students and protesters and it feels like everybody that the Trump administration decides they don't like, you'll just disappear. They will disappear you.
Well, the Supreme Court seems like they were like, okay, we voted for this good thing and our job is done. Moving on.
Yep. No, they vote for this one good thing and then they can go vote so they can go vote in 10 bad things.
Well, not even that. It's like, my job is done, and then they kick their feet up. It's like, where's the work? Well,
that's the thing is, who enforces what the Supreme Court is telling the White House to do? Who is actually making that happen? And isn't that the question?
Annoying.
So, we will cross our fingers. Hopefully Garcia can be reunited with his family. Because that's terrifying.
It's actually disgusting.
But we can move on. We can move on back to you.
Well, this is a little more fun. Michelle Obama has finally shut down rumors that her and the former president Barack Obama are getting a divorce.
There were rumors that the Obamas were divorcing?
Yeah. Well, remember a few weeks ago when I told you how there was that rumor about Jennifer Aniston and Barack Obama.
Oh, yeah.
Relationship. Yeah. There's just been all of these rumors because she didn't attend Jimmy Carter's funeral. She also didn't attend Donald Trump's inauguration. And people were like, oh, they're getting a divorce. Well, they're getting a divorce.
I have things to say.
Okay.
She didn't attend those things because at Jimmy Carter's funeral, based off of the seating arrangement, because it would go president and his wife, president and his wife, president and his wife. And because Trump came after Obama, Michelle would have had to sit next to Donald. And she said, no, I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. So she didn't go.
Mm-hmm. But people, they didn't want to take that. They were like, no, they must be on the rocks. Anyway, she went on Sophia Bush's podcast Work in Progress to discuss some of the rumors, and she mentioned none of these things have anything to do with her marriage. She's just exploring who she wants to be every day without having to be in the shadow of her husband all the time. So it sounds like she's just trying to find herself and also utilize her voice in her own way, aka not attending the inauguration and not attending the funeral.
Go
she's
Michelle.
trying to stand up for her own rights, and it sounds like she has a book coming out. But moral of the story, she's just trying to find her own way through the craziness that is the political atmosphere right now.
Good for her.
Yeah, but I'm entertained that this is still going on.
Finally shut down. Wow. Well, I think it's because, you know what I think? It's because I bet those rumors are starting because when you look up Obama right now, it's Obama bashing the government and saying, like, could you guys imagine if I did these things?
Right.
And he's not wrong. So as a result, it sounds like we need to distract the people from that interview and tell them that he's not getting divorced.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what a good use of our time.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all. Back to you.
Okay. The next one is about measles. So I'm sure that I say I'm sure, but I've learned that I can't be sure about that. There is currently a measles outbreak, specifically in Texas and surrounding states, and more specifically among anti-vaccination families. As of April 7th, 2 children had died of measles at this point. And on April 7th, what's amusing is when I was, trying to look up numbers for this, because I was like, okay, like how big is this? How big of an issue is this measles breakout? On April 7th, Texas reported more than 480 measles cases. April 8th, I was able to find that just across the U.S., about 631 measles cases. Part of this outbreak was RFK Jr., who is a notable vaccine skeptic, went and visited her family. RFK Jr. was trying to say, hey, vitamin A is a good way to respond and fight measles. However, there are children overdosing on vitamin A because they're pumping their children in vitamin A instead of getting them vaccinated. Another hiccup in all of this is due to the mass layoffs of the Department of Health and Human Services, which included 2,400 members of the CDC. There are only 3 CDC members currently meeting with the state and local officials to try and respond to this outbreak across multiple states. Additionally, $11 billion in grants to state and local health departments have been pulled back. In Dallas, over 50 immunization clinics have shut down because they don't have that funding anymore. So it's kind of a disaster in that there are children dying of measles, and yet somehow it doesn't seem to be convincing anybody that the vaccination is important. Something that sucks is, back in the 50s, when people dying of measles was more common, creating the vaccination caused those deaths to stop. And because we are, in 2025, nobody remembers what it was like when measles was running rampant. So it's easier to say, oh, vaccinations are bad for you. They're not for me. Okay, well, vaccinations kept your kid from dying from measles. But
well, and I think people are like, they could do it in the old days. And I'm
people
like,
died in the old days.
Here's the thing, and people weren't living as long because they didn't have access to these vaccinations.
Yeah, and what's wild to me, like the father of the second kid that died, she was an 8-year-old, and the father was like, well, she didn't have measles as bad as these vaccinated people have it, because you can still get measles when you're vaccinated. It's just less likely. It's going to harm you less. So him saying that vaccinated people had it worse, those vaccinated people aren't dying. I would say the death was worse. Mm-hmm. But I'm not a doctor. So
I'm also just... I have like so many thoughts running through my mind every time it comes to vaccinations. I'm just like, so pumping your kid with a ton of vitamin A makes sense because that's the more natural way of doing it.
Yes. We didn't know that. After years and years and years and years and years and years of this vaccination being successful, we didn't consider the third option, vitamin A.
But causing the autism.
I
God forbid.
Not that this is one of my topics, but they're saying they're going to find out what caused the autism epidemic by September. And
do
I
they have the cure for cancer yet too?
I want to know if someone's like looked into their, like x-rayed them to see if there are brains in their skulls. Because I don't think they're there.
They must have the cure for cancer already in their back pocket. They just, got to start out small.
Well,
with
no.
Autism.
If they have the cure for cancer, they have to keep it a secret because Big Pharma won't make money off of cancer treatments.
And here's the thing, like, never mind. I was going to go down a rabbit hole that could be seen as parent shamey, but I'm not going to do that.
Well, I would argue we need to shame these parents. If your children are dying, then you should feel some level of shame.
I guess, yeah.
Like that's, yeah. If your decision to not vaccinate your child despite science, then you should feel some level of shame.
It's even like, I'm not going to vaccinate them because I'm afraid of them getting autism. So you would rather them die
than be autistic.
Than you having to help them.
Yeah, you've nailed it there. It's similar to
me. So crazy.
It's the same mindset of people would rather have their children dead than gay. Like it's the same line of thinking.
It's just so crazy to me.
So, well,
and like, what's wrong with autism? I'm just whatever.
And the other thing about saying, oh, there's an autism epidemic and we're going to find the source of it, like we haven't been trying to identify causes of autism. But on top of that, there isn't an autism epidemic. Autistic people have lived for probably forever. Right. Probably since the beginning of humanity. Autistic people have been alive. Yes, it's awareness. It's kind of like saying, there's that chart that shows the number of left-handed people skyrocketing after like the 80s or 90s or something. Right. And they're like, I wonder what caused the left-handedness epidemic. It wasn't an epidemic. We just stopped trying to suppress people from writing with their left hands. It's not an autism epidemic. We've just stopped trying to pretend that people that have autism don't have autism. Like, we're actually trying to say, hey, these people's brains function differently than ours, and we're going to try and create a society that includes them.
Because God forbid we say, let's help them.
Yes.
Let's make a world that can help them as well.
Yeah, we can't have that because, again, that would be people that are different than us.
Be going against the norm. We can't do that.
Correct.
Ugh.
So, anyway, measles. Don't go to Texas. I won't be. I mean, I guess I don't know what parts of Texas. Definitely Dallas. Don't go to Texas right now.
Don't do that. Anyway, moving right along. I'm honestly questioning some of what pop culture thinks is quote unquote interesting. Because this is a prime example of what they posted today.
Okay.
On the Daily Mail as the big news of the day. Angelina Jolie's daughter, Shiloh, marks her upcoming 18th birthday by copying her mom's quote-unquote inking habit.
What is, like, tattoo?
She has a tattoo. They're like, this is a big
deal. And they care about that?
Well, she's 17, Kassia.
Why aren't they talking about the fact that Sabrina Carpenter's on Fortnite? But no, they need to talk about a person's tattoo.
So the other thing is she's not even 18 yet. So why are you guys invested in a 17-year-old's life?
Because it's Angelina Jolie's daughter.
I'm thinking like Charlie D'Amelio and all these other people. And
slow news day.
I honestly would freak out if I was a 17-year-old and paparazzi was following me around taking pictures.
Yeah, that would
which they were.
Well, there are some 17-year-olds that's their dream. I don't know about her, though.
I don't know. Anyway, and...
Wow, they really said, I'm going to care about this today.
It's the tiniest tattoo on her wrist. Like...
What did she get a tattoo of?
The Gemini symbol.
I don't even know. Is it like the constellation, or hold on, I need to look up Gemini symbol now, because hold on.
Holding.
Gemini symbol. I didn't even know that they had symbols. Sagittarius have symbol?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, I know the symbols. Okay, I didn't know the symbol, but I know what you mean by there are symbols. Okay, cool.
And they're like, she has a inking habit. I'm like, I don't know, Kassia, what are your views on tattoos?
Get them if you want them. I have a tattoo.
I have multiple.
You have multiple tattoos. I'm trying to think, do I have any friends that don't? I do have a few friends that don't have tattoos. But tattoos are so prolific among everybody I know that I have to actually think hard who doesn't have a tattoo.
I don't even think I know who doesn't have a tattoo.
But yeah, I think tattoos are perfectly fine. One thing I don't understand, because people are like, oh, you'll get addicted to them. And I got a tattoo, and maybe I would be addicted if I was wealthy, but due to my lack of wealth, I haven't gotten another tattoo, because your girl got bills to pay. But yeah, get a tattoo if you can afford them. I have ideas. I have an artist I follow on Instagram that I would die to get a tattoo from her, but she's always booked. Like, she's very popular, so. But she's here in Utah. So maybe someday when I'm old and rich.
I love tattoos. I think they're a great storyteller.
Do you think that they're worth telling a story about on the Daily Mail?
No. I think if you want them, get them. And so why are you saying it's a habit? I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird thing. It's just a weird headline. And I just wanted to bring it up how sometimes ridiculous some of these stories are.
Yeah, I think I'm rendered speechless, not because I'm shocked, but because I have no comment. I'm like, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I think that happens a lot with, like celebrity news, is you have a slow news cycle, so you make something up.
So crazy to me.
Not necessarily make something up, but like if all of your news story like that, they must have had a bunch of crappy stories to talk about, and they were like, you know what, this is the best one. This one's going to get the most clicks.
Right.
So, well, hey, we're talking about it. So they might have been onto something.
Sure.
Maybe that was their secret. They were like, let's pick the worst news story and see if somebody starts a podcast about it. And they did.
I didn't start a podcast about
you did.
it.
I know what you mean. Talks about it on their podcast.
Yeah.
And if anything, the Daily Mail is never going to know we exist. You know what? New goal. Get TeaandKetchup on the Daily Mail.
New goal.
Maybe I have to start talking crap on the Daily Mail, or befriend Angelina Jolie's daughter. And then I'll get on the Daily Mail.
29.
And then I'll be,
with
yeah.
Shiloh, 17.
I'll take a selfie, the both of us, and we'll hold up our tattoos and be like, eat that, Daily Mail. And then they'll be like, American podcast. Isn't Daily Mail a British news?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure they are.
Well, they're entertaining.
Anyway,
that's all.
Good for Shiloh. Next piece is a little complicated. I'm going to try my best, and I don't think I'm going to nail it. I wrote things down. I was like, I'm going to read this. It's going to be clear and succinct. But even trying to write it down, it's difficult to understand. And one thing to keep in mind is it hasn't even happened yet. What am I talking about? The SAVE Act. The SAVE Act stands for Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. This is an act aimed to keep non-citizens from registering to vote. And something, a side note, a opinion from me, and not something they posted on the news, is that evidence of voter fraud is so small. And yet we're about to create an act that will affect married women, among others, across the country. This act, and why do I say it's not an act? It hasn't happened yet. It was passed in the House, which is why it made the news cycle. It is going to the Senate before heading to Trump's desk for final approval. What's the problem with this SAVE Act? Why does it affect married women across the country? Well, the SAVE Act would require a certain level of documentation that a lot of Americans do not have currently. You may have heard of the Real ID. Now, that piece isn't new. The Real ID is a type, just kind of like your driver's license. It's a special level of identification. So I believe to acquire this Real ID, you have to be in person, and you need to provide proof of citizenship. So the SAVE Act will require when you vote that you provide proof of citizenship that shows your last name is going to need to match. That's the key piece here, and that's why it affects married women, is you can show up with your driver's license and your birth certificate, and both of those, and when I say your driver's license, you could show up with your Real ID and your birth certificate, and that Real ID would count as one piece of proof of citizenship. That birth certificate, because its last name does not match that Real ID, will not. If you don't...
Kassia, what about when somebody brings their marriage certificate?
Great question. A marriage certificate will not count as proof of citizenship. Neither will a naturalization certificate, adoption decree. A lot of these things will not count. You will not be able to provide those as proof of your name change. So a major solution is, okay, I'll go get my passport. However, getting your passport is about, if not over, $160 across the country. But essentially what this means is that when you go to vote and you bring your regular driver's license and a second piece of identification, you may not be allowed to vote because those will not, unless your last name matches on both of those documents. This law causes hurdles for anyone who has gone through a name change that doesn't match their birth certificate, such as a married woman who took their spouse's last name. The SAVE Act would not allow proof of name change or marriage certificate as acceptable proof of identity, and getting that passport is the only option for a lot of people, but again, over $160. I did see somebody tweet, I don't remember who, but they were saying, hey, if you're going to require that a passport be a second piece of identification to prove that you're a citizen, maybe make those passports free. We all know that that's not going to happen, but it's going to cause a problem for a lot of people. On top of that, the SAVE Act was going to require in-person voting, which takes away vote by mail, which is my preferred way to vote. A lot of people's preferred way to vote. Taking away vote by mail will impact rural communities because especially older people or people that don't drive in these rural communities, they're going to have to travel or find a way to travel to even vote. If you're in a city or if you're in a suburb, so an area that has more population, on whatever day you're trying to vote, you're now competing with a lot more people, and I have an inkling that the administration is not going to put efforts into making sure that there are more voting booths, but, that's due to a history of voter suppression, but I won't get into that. So, overall, the SAVE Act has not been passed yet. It still needs to go through the Senate as well as through the president. I have a feeling the president is going to approve it. I have no doubt about that. But the Senate, we may have some hope in the Senate saying, hey, the requirements here are not feasible. But we'll see what happens.
I've heard that they've been trying to pass bills to make sure, just tiny bills being and married women can vote, but they keep getting turned down. Yeah,
there have been attempts to modify the bill for married women, but like you said, those attempts haven't gone through. So,
which I think is silly.
Yeah. So if you don't have a passport, you should work on that. So the next time you want to vote, you can.
And don't change your last name, girls.
Don't change your last name. That's where we're at. What's funny is I don't think that's... I'm sure that the administration wants women to take their last names because we're full of misogynists, So I'm sure they want women to have the last names of their husband. But a big part of that, and a big part of the voter suppression of this, is an attempt to make it so that the male head of the household is the only vote that matters. That's the ultimate goal of it all. So we'll see if it passes.
Well, thank you.
I don't know if you want to thank me for that, but
thank you for explaining it.
Got you.
Well, my last story of the day, Coachella.
Week
1, weekend
seen
1.
pics.
Attendees have complained, though.
What are they?
They're saying...
Are they getting fire sandwiched?
Yes, Kassia. So
for real? OMG.
Attendees complain about over 12-hour wait to get even into the camping grounds. So so Coachella's open for 2 weekends every year, and it's been open for years. And so you think, they'd have some sort of, system.
They'd have a system.
Place. But no. It took 12 hours for people to get into the campgrounds. And there were no porta potties, no gas stations, so people were running out of gas. Everybody was peeing on the side of the road. And the only porta potties that were available were in the grounds of Coachella. And so when people tried to go up and be like, hey, I just need to use the restroom, they were denied access.
And I don't know where Coachella is. Is it out in the middle of nowhere?
It's in California.
Well, I know it's in California, but I mean, like, is it far away from...
No, I wouldn't say it's too far. It's on these, campgrounds in a more deserty area.
Pictures of, long lines of cars trying to leave music festivals. I wasn't sure if Coachella was one of them, but sounds like it may not be.
Yeah. Anyway, some people are comparing this year to the quote-unquote Fyre festival. People are stating that this has been the worst year yet after they've gone year after year. And I just think, I don't know, Coachella seems a little bit overrated now. When I was younger, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Peak 2016 makeup and all that other.
I guess. Okay. I see what you're saying. I think if I had been given tickets to go to Coachella, I'd go. Sure, why not? But I'd never try to buy them.
It just seems miserable.
I've never been to a multi-day music festival. We've done Warped Tour, but that isn't multiple days. That's a one day in your city and then they're gone.
Right.
I can't imagine a multi-day music festival. I need day 2 to recover. If they're going to have a multi-day music festival, they need a day 2 spa day. Okay. But dang. So they're getting Fyre festival at Coachella. That's rough.
Yeah, but here's the thing though. Celebrities, so compared to just the general population celebrities, the celebrities just get they get carted around, they get right in, they have their little hotels that they get to travel to, and all the other people have to wait in the longest lines, and it's miserable for everybody else.
Did they not remember that they were poor?
Right.
We're the peasants, okay? They need to get that in your brain before you go to Coachella. You are a peasant. You may not be a peasant. You may be more than a peasant. I would be going and I would be a peasant and I would expect to be treated like a peasant. And now that we live in an oligarchy, we really need to expect to be treated like peasants.
We all need to become, what's her name? Anna Delvey.
Who's that? Oh, is that lady that faked being an influencer?
Faked being rich and then stole
tons
of money.
And then became rich somehow.
Yeah.
See, you do that one time. You fake being rich one time and you get and once you get even $1,000, then you say, okay, I'm done. I did my hustle.
It's been coming out that people are using celebrities' names to get on reservation lists.
Incredible. And
it's just so entertaining.
Wouldn't they know what the celebrity looked like?
Well, do you know Nina Dobrev even said she did this, which I thought was funny. She said that she would call, I think it was Nina Dobrev. She would call and say that, I think it was John Leno or something like that. She would call and be like, I have a table for this person. They'd be like, oh, let's get her in. And so then a ton of teenagers would just show up and they'd be like, so is he coming? And everybody there would be really excited that they're going to be able to meet him and serve him. And she's like, oh, yeah, he's coming. He's just going to be late. He never shows up.
Oh. Wow. So there's ways. Hey, if you act like you belong somewhere, you belong. Right.
Right. Who actually belongs? I belong in my home. I belong in my bed. Yeah,
I don't know if I could pretend to be a celebrity at Coachella.
No,
I would look.
Cool enough.
See, I see all like the Coachella outfits, and those are a lot for me.
I'd show up in a t-shirt.
We'd be dressed like Mormons compared to everyone else there. And that would be embarrassing. And they'd be like, "Are you Amish?" And I'd say, "Might as well be."
Yeah.
Because I'm not wearing...
I think the tattoos would give it away, though. That we
Oh, that's it. Hey, my tattoo's very hidden. So I could pass as Mormon if I tried.
I guess. Anyway, that's all on Coachella.
Oh, Coachella. My last news story is kind of just an update on Gaza. Not necessarily that there's anything groundbreaking, but I still think it's important to talk about Gaza. But then kind of just because there have been a few developments, especially since last week, there was that not U.S. aid, but there were those aid workers that were found in a mass grave. Israel tried to say that they were suspicious moving without their lights off, and that's why they killed them. Then they found that video that proved Israel was lying. Then they found all the bodies buried in a mass grave and all of the trucks trying to be buried in a grave. And so they were called out and they said, "Oh, sorry." Since then, on April 6th, Israel announced that it would continue to withhold aid to pressure Hamas into releasing more hostages and impose new conditions on the extension of the ceasefire agreement. Then the next day, on the 7th, rights groups breaking the silence published testimonials from Israeli troops who said there was a methodical effort to destroy buildings for a buffer zone. Essentially, Israel's going along the border of Gaza and itself and destroying buildings to try and create hey, you can't live here, you can't stay here. And then today, this morning, Israel announced a plan to expand their offensive into Gaza and try and occupy them even more than they currently are. So keep in mind, Gaza, I want to say currently, has a population of about 2 million people. About 48,000 have died thus far in this war in Gaza. So just not necessarily a huge update. But I did think that it was interesting that story got published, that Israeli troops were kind of like, yeah, we're creating a buffer zone, and that's why we're destroying all these buildings willy-nilly.
That's crazy.
Yeah, there's not really much of an update beyond that, though. So just stuff happening, and we get to learn about it on the news and not do anything while the U.S. continues to support Israel.
Yay.
Talk about being a peasant, huh? So, you know what? We need to stop having me end last. Because you're over here like, Coachella sucks. And that's fun. I would love to crap on Coachella. But now I'm like,
go first for now on if you want to.
Gaza is getting bombed. And that's not fun to end on. You know?
Yeah.
Is there a lighter note we can end on? I'm trying to think of what's going on. We're going to see Bernie tomorrow. That's the light note.
And I'm going to take my cat to the vet. And Kassia is going to have to wrestle him.
I thought you would bring up the Minecraft movie today.
Oh, no.
And all the kids that are, like, destroying the movie theaters because of Chicken Jockey.
Yeah. I mean,
like, that's literally what I keep seeing. That's what I thought pop culture was. I thought pop culture was Minecraft.
I mean, it is, but I haven't... Here's the thing. And maybe this is my fault, and I need to stop being biased, but I do not like Minecraft.
Oh, I mean, I'm not a Minecraft fan.
Like, anything with Minecraft, I don't even read the headline. Oh, Minecraft next. But I have seen all the destroying of all the theaters, and people getting kicked out of them. There's actually been a ton of theaters who are banning people from coming back.
Dang. Imagine being a 10-year-old banned from a movie theater for life. That's like 70 years. Unless you're in Texas, that's like 2 years. But
That was a measles reference.
That was a measles reference. Thank you for pointing that out.
Anyway, well, thank you guys so much for listening to Tea and Ketchup. I have all of the socials linked down below for you guys to follow. Again, we post every Sunday. So Let us know if you have any feedback.
Give us
Let
a
me
listen.
know.
Trista will look. Trista will read the... Did you know Spotify has comments?
Yeah.
I learned this the other day. I was listening to NPR and I scrolled down by accident and there were comments. I was like, what? Or no, it wasn't NPR. I think it was like Morning Brew or something. I don't remember. But Spotify has comments. So I was like, guess I can't read those either. But
yeah.
Anyway,
well, thank you guys so much for listening. We will talk to you next week.
bye.
Bye.